Oi to oi, and welcome back to PickItUpGaming, you spooky cats, howling werewolves, and shambling zombies. If you haven't guessed, this week's video is going to be on Halloween. And I thought, what best to do on Halloween than talk about one of my favourite games of recent times, Resident Evil 2, which is the remake. Also, I thought in this video I'll be talking about remakes, as there seems to be quite a lot of them coming out recently and in the near future. And begs the question, does every game need a remake? And also talk about Resident Evil 2. So let's get going, shall we? So Resident Evil 2 is the 2019 survival horror game developed and published by Capcom. Capcom has also done games like Monster Hunter and Devil May Cry, but more famously, I suppose, Resident Evil or Street Fighter. Now obviously this is the remake of the 1998 game, also called Resident Evil 2. Now, the remake was released for PlayStation 4, Windows and Xbox One in January 2019. So yeah, that's quite a while back to be fair, so it's quite a little bit of information for you about the game Resident Evil 2. So let's get on with the rest of the story, shall we? So to get things out of the way first, before the remake, I have only ever played little bits and bobs of the Resident Evil series. I think one of the main games that I did try was Outbreak, and that was the PlayStation 2, but that was years ago. And then Resident Evil 4, I think that was one of the games I really got into the series. Then obviously played 5 and 6, 7, and yeah, and obviously since then I've gone back into playing both remakes of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, which you can see in my complete playthrough on my channel. So that's good. Here's a link to it right above somewhere. There it is. So what makes this remake different, and I suppose sets the bar very high to other remakes? Well, for starters, obviously the first one was on the PlayStation 1, so in terms of graphical improvements, it's, you know, astounding how far we've come from the original Resident Evil to this one. How the characters look so lifelike. Obviously, there's so much more detail into the light and shadow. Just, you know, obviously, you know, it goes without saying, huge graphical improvements. Not just that, sounds, voice acting, animation, movements, the way the characters filmed, the way the zombies look, when you shoot in the head, bits fall off, and how it's all gross and graphic and disgusting at times. So that is one of the big reasons why this remake sticks out quite a bit, because as I mentioned beforehand, recently there's games coming out that don't necessarily need a remake. The Last of Us was probably one of them. Now there's news of Horizon Zero Dawn being remade, which, you know, doesn't need it. If it's from PlayStation 3, 4 onwards, it don't need a remake. Maybe a remaster, just to kind of improve the graphics and the sound and visuals and whatever else, the gameplay, just to make it a bit more modern. But in terms of complete overhaul, complete remake, it doesn't need it. However, games like Resident Evil 2, 3, you know, Jack and Daxter for one, could do with like a remake or remaster, or just a complete overhaul, just to make it, not in terms of the story or the atmosphere or the sound, just to freshen things up, make it look more modern, that kind of thing. But so where Resident Evil 2 does shine is, you know, it hasn't changed much from the original game, I suppose, from what I can tell. But obviously I haven't played the original one, so maybe I don't know. I guess it takes a more kind of action approach when you over the shoulder aiming, rather than that kind of tanky moments where you can't run, you have to kind of turn left to right before you can move forward, which for some people kind of removes the horror element from it. For me personally, it makes it more playable, makes it a bit more enjoyable. I like having the freedom of movement, but obviously I like having the fact that there's still kind of tension there when the zombies chase you down. And it's also a bit frustrating but excitable when you shoot in the head for the first time and they don't die straight away. That's that got me the first time, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I shot in your head, why is it not gone down? Those are zombie rules 101. Shoot in the head, they go down. I suppose another thing for remakes is that they make them more accessible for people like myself who didn't play the original games, obviously like during the PS1, PS2 area, where they're a bit more hard, a bit more expensive now to come by. And to have them remade and keep the same story, the same atmosphere, the same feeling to it, but make it more modern, allows people like myself to check it out, to go back to these games and enjoy them for the first time and have the same experience near enough, without having to search for old stores to find old copies, to get an old console out to play it that way, and to have the restrictions that it used to have, obviously with the controls, the sound, the visuals, how it felt. And I suppose some people, like I said, they enjoy it, but that's probably due to nostalgia, or maybe it's just how they prefer the game. But for me, having a remake like this, allowed me to get into the series, allowed me to kind of really enjoy the whole series, and now I look forward to each and every other Resident Evil game, near enough. And having said that, I really enjoy Resident Evil 2 Remake, and it's definitely one of the pinnacles and the highest points of this is what you need to achieve to be up there, to have that kind of recognition and praise of this, and obviously Demon's Souls Remake, where they take gone from the ground up, kept the same formula, but just modernised it to introduce new players to the world. These two games I mentioned are the pinnacle. However, following on, when I play Resident Evil 3, like I mentioned in the earlier part of this video, I was left feeling a bit kind of underwhelmed by that game. Although once again it looked visually impressive and control wise fantastic, it was still quite engaging. It was also very short. Where this game here has enough to make me go back and play 3 or 4 playthroughs, because obviously you have Leon and Claire's campaign, different stories with kind of similar beat, and obviously the challenges of trying to complete as fast as you can, not using any health items, not using the item box. That gave it enough of a justification for me to pay the full asking price. As with Resident Evil 3 and obviously The Last of Us, and eventually when the Horizon Zero Dawn comes out, what they're going to charge for is not good in my books anyway, but that's just my opinion. But back to Resident Evil 2, once again, it is a fantastic game. It's brilliant, it's engaging, it's scary, and it hooks you from the start. And like I said, given the fact that it's on PlayStation Plus now, and it's fairly cheap wherever you get. So this Halloween, if you're looking for a game to have your friends over to play, or just to play by yourself, have a little spooky game session, Resident Evil 2 Remake is definitely one I highly recommend. So stay safe guys, enjoy Halloween, be all spooky, be all scary, but be nice to each other. Bye!